Hey, everybody, welcome back to another edition of the Fantasy Football Expo podcast series. I'm your host, Bob Blum. Those two young men right there, that's Don Gibson. That's Mike Kuby. Yeah, QB, get it? I love it. This guy should be in football, right? They're from Maptasy Sports, and they are coming up next. Does anybody have a cooler name than QB in your in
When,
fantasy sports?
when I went to a new school in seventh grade, Bob, uh, the rumors spread ahead of me that this great quarterback was coming to the school. And I show up, I'm 4'6", and I weigh 70 pounds.
So you were in the 5 foot and under league as a quarterback. I get it. That's fine. But
I
no,
played.
guys, welcome to the show. Thank you for being a part of this. We are so honored to have you guys being involved here in the Fantasy Football Expo. We're going to talk about that in a little bit. But first off, just introduce yourself and where you're calling in from, and then we'll kind of take it from there. So, Don, we'll start with you.
Well, first, Bob, thank you for being so kind and referring to us as young men.
Yeah, I'm right there with you. So.
We appreciate it. I am actually in Scottsdale, Arizona, which is where I am speaking from.
Mm-hmm. Mike?
I am a retired professor of geography from Arizona State University, where I taught for 37 years. And I am now calling from Colorado.
All right.
Nice.
Oh,
I'm retired. I can be
interesting.
up in the cooler weather.
All right. No, Colorado is beautiful. My wife has relatives in Colorado Springs. I've been there multiple times. Gorgeous, just gorgeous place. Definitely love that. So, Mike, you just mentioned something very interesting. The guy, professor of geography, would put together a fantasy game that has to do with maps. Shocked? We're not. And that's what we're going to talk about. So, gentlemen, we're going to talk about Maptasy fantasy sports. So, tell us about what is Maptasy? How do you play? What makes it different? Either one of you can go. I'm going to just kind of open it up to the floor.
Well, I think I'll defer to Mike to give the history. It's a really compelling history. I think, wonderful human interest story in terms of how this game was originally conceived. And then Mike can describe how I came into the mix, and then we'll go from there.
All right, Mike.
Sure. Well, as you can see in my background, the Maptasy is a combination of maps and sports, fantasy sports in particular. So the game had its origin with some grad students at the time, PhD students in geography at ASU. Like a lot of grad students, they were into sports, they were into beer, they were into camping, and they were very into geographic information systems. So March Madness rolls around one year, and Scott, Kevin, and Dan, they are our partners, got to talking in the research assistant room. What if we plotted all the 68 teams of March Madness on a map?
Mm-hmm.
What if we created territories around each campus that represent all of the area that is closest to that campus, closer to that campus than any other? What if we then run a clustering algorithm to make 8 clusters of 8 teams around the 1 and the 2 seeds? So they did that. They went to a bar and they debated and chose and all that kind of stuff. The next year, one of them had graduated, and Scott came to me and asked me if I wanted to play this crazy thing that they had developed. I said, okay, tell me about it. And they started to tell me. And as soon as they got to the part where the computer created the 8 clusters of 8 around the 1 and 2 seeds, I said, whoa, 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 whoa. Hold your horses. You're letting the computer have all the fun. Because, I'd been playing fantasy football since a much earlier group of geography grad students had invited me to join their league. when that was like 1990. I was a second year professor. And, and I'd also developed a board game called Traverse, a strategy game, when I was in junior high school, of all
Oh
things.
wow. Okay.
And when I was in grad school, I, with a couple of friends, turned it into a commercial product. And we had a great run with it. The game was called
Nice.
Traverse. It's
Okay.
kind of a cross between chess and Chinese checkers. That's a
Oh,
whole nother story.
okay. Is it still out
Um,
there? Is it still available for
but I'm
purchase?
thinking, I'm a board game guy.
Okay. Yeah.
So as soon as Scott said we're going to have the computer make these 8 regions of 8, I was like, no, 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 no. We're going to have a draft.
Ah.
You don't have to start with a 1 or 2 seed if you don't want. We're going to have a draft on a map. So you can see behind me,
Mm-hmm.
the different colors are all connected. So what we did, we printed out a map, and someone chose a team in the first round, and then did a snake draft. Come around to the second round, you have to pick a team that's next to your first team.
Mm.
Third round, you got to pick a team that's connected to one of your two first or second round teams, and so on.
Okay.
That's how the idea of Maptasy was born.
Love it. Yeah.
And then we just gave points like the bracket games. Certain
Mm-hmm.
points for a win in round 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 type of thing. You want to
Nice.
add something, Don?
Oh, yeah. Don, any more to add?
No, I don't have anything to add to the history of the development of this concept, but the way Mike has described it clearly shows how original this game is.
Mhm.
There is nothing like it in the fantasy sports space because we have merged two kinds of activities in terms of board game and
Mhm.
traditional fantasy sports play and added a significant strategic element to fantasy sports that previously did not exist.
Right.
So that's what really made it compelling and exciting. So I'll have Mike now tell the story about how he came to me because he came to me. And once I was exposed to the opportunity, I saw immense value here that we needed to really fully explore.
All right,
Mm-hmm.
Mike.
Well, so I'm trying to convince these grad students uh, to that this is a great idea. We should commercialize it and so on. And I happen to have been on another project at ASU where I knew some of the patent attorneys and talked to them about whether it was patentable and all that. But we weren't really getting anywhere because we weren't business people. We weren't
Right.
sports uh, business people. Um, but as it happened, my younger daughter was uh, a game night intern for the Phoenix Suns.
Oh, nice.
Started the master's program in sports law and business at ASU, where Don teaches. So I
Mm.
asked Olivia, um, we really need some help with this game. Who would you recommend I talk to at Sports Law and Business? She didn't hesitate 1 second. Don Gibson. Oh, he's my favorite professor. I've taken 2 classes from him. He, was CEO of the Hall of Fame and worked for MLB and all this. That's the guy. And so
Yeah,
I
that's
gave
the guy.
the rest is history.
All right. Awesome. And
No.
then Don, obviously they came to you. What happened next?
Well, the next, when I met Mike, the first thing I asked for was a demo
Mm.
because I have a consulting business
Okay.
in addition to my teaching responsibilities and role at ASU. And I work primarily with startup companies who come to me with ideas for new consumer products, consumer services that they think have some viability in the sports marketplace.
Mm.
And I get you can have no idea how many ideas I get thrown at me. And with my background with Major League Baseball properties and at the Hall of Fame and developing brands and marketing strategies and events, I feel have a good sense of things that will have a chance. You can't guarantee success, but I
Right.
think will have a meaningful chance. And we arranged for a demonstration. And at that demonstration, the light bulb went on for me. I said, this thing is fantastic because it's unique. The question is, what can we make proprietary? And then how do we go about exploiting it so that we can fully realize its commercial capabilities? And the next step was to look at the game, ask how we can improve the game, and then develop the platform, the technology that we can claim ownership to that
Hmm.
would protect our interests in the game. I knew from the beginning I wanted to be part of this. First of all, they were really good people. They were compelling people who had intellectual capability,
Right.
and they were all hardworking persons who did this from a position of passion, not really setting out to try to, make a business or go on Shark Tank, that sort of
Right.
thing. But
Right.
they came from passion, and I
Hmm.
found that the best ideas are ones that are developed from a basis of passion, a love for something, as
Hmm.
opposed to trying to determine how I can make money and then trying to come up with an idea. And in this case, that's what drove me. The
Right.
quality of the people, the idea I thought was incredibly sound, and the question was, can we protect this in some way that will allow us to fully exploit its commercial potential? And that led us to having meetings with people associated with ASU. And Mike, I'll transition to you to talk about that process.
Well, yeah, I enlisted some of one of my former grad students, who was just an excellent programmer, and asked him if he was interested in helping develop a prototype. And he said, "Well, I'm pretty busy, but my son is a junior in computer science now at ASU.
There you
So
go.
we could do it as a father son project." So this was from a much earlier cohort of grad students.
Yeah.
He'd long finished his PhD, uh, and he and his son built a prototype. And we it really didn't consist of anything except the drafting process, but it was enough to convince Don that this was a fun concept and could be applied to many different sports, many different events, tournaments, seasons, fantasy, you name it.
So you
And
guys
since then,
now. Oh, sorry.
go ahead.
No, I'm
Go
sorry.
ahead.
I did. I thought you were done. My bad. Go ahead.
I am done.
But I'd follow that up. And, again, as I said, many great ideas collect dust because you can't develop something that is proprietary that cannot be copied without some legal consequence, et cetera.
Sure.
And we sought patent counsel. We were able to get several patents on our game, and that's the protection we have, along with
Awesome.
a great idea.
Now, you guys have talked a little bit about obviously March Madness, but talk about some of the games that you guys have launched already, and then what games you're going to be launching for the NFL season.
We
You want
we
to go ahead,
launched
Don?
we launched March Mania in conjunction with the college basketball championship.
Hmm.
Um, we then followed that with Pro Football Draft Mania, which was a game built around the NFL draft, and there's never been anything substantive tied to the NFL draft that we could see, and
Hmm.
that was really a unique concept. So, Mike, why don't you talk about those two games, and then we'll talk about what we're doing for football.
Sure. Well, so I think we can go right to the NFL draft game. So we took the Power Four conferences, and then we added Notre Dame, Boise State, Oregon State, and Washington State. Um, and uh, It's more or less the same process of drafting. Pick a college team in the first round,
Mm-hmm.
Pick an adjacent team in the second round, keep picking adjacent until there's, occasionally what happens is uh, you get crowded in from all sides and there's no teams left for you to draft that are adjacent to your teams. We call that getting boxed in.
Sure.
And it can be a handicap or it can really get you out of a bind. And because you lose a turn and you can jump to somewhere else on the map, any unchosen team, and start building a satellite empire somewhere else. And we've seen some strategies where people purposely get boxed in, like for the NFL draft, for instance, everyone's expecting Cam Ward of Miami to be the first pick.
Mm-hmm.
Miami's, at the bottom of the Florida Peninsula.
Right.
All someone has to do is pick Florida State or Florida,
Right.
and,
A year
and
fail. Right.
they
Yeah.
can't go anywhere.
Right.
They lose a turn, but then you can jump to anywhere on the map.
Right.
Some people have figured that can be beneficial.
Sure.
And so then, once you've done the draft process, it's not a single elimination tournament, but you basically get more points for the top, the number one pick, the number two pick,
Right. Right.
round pick, then more than a second round pick, and so on and so forth.
Right.
The
Right.
game functions pretty much the same way. So
So
that was a lot of
7 rounds
fun.
then.
Yeah.
Okay. So you got points for every round. So
Actually gave a bonus for Mr. Irrelevant.
Right.
there you go. I like that. Extra bonus for that.
Uh-huh.
Just in case you got Iowa State Brock Purdy a couple years ago.
Yeah. No, that's what really I think enhanced it is. And the thing about the draft, it's not an exact science, and even the prognosticators get their projections wrong.
Oh gosh, yeah.
So if you're picking schools that you think will have more players drafted, that's really the strategy.
Right. So
Or
Ohio
the highest-
State, Alabama, those
Right,
schools are
exactly.
going to be right.
Exactly, and so, but you never know what curveball gets thrown at you,
Right.
and you have some schools that have more players selected in a certain round than you might have anticipated, and that's
Right.
how
That's
you're
a good point.
accumulating points. So we really enjoyed that pro football draft mania game,
Mm-hmm.
and that led us obviously to, well, what are we going to do for the fall? And
Right.
this to us is really the pièce de résistance, as the French would say, in
Right.
terms of what Maptasy is capable of doing. And I think before we move on, we should probably just explain a little more clearly how Maptasy works, because Mike has talked about the draft and
Mm-hmm.
so forth. Mike, just give a quick tutorial on how Maptasy works as a game generally, in terms of the draft and the adjacencies and so forth, because that may have gone over some people's heads in this discussion so far.
Sure. All Maptasy games, we're now working on our third and fourth games to be introduced at the start of this football season. Start with the same concept. Every team has a territory centered on the stadium or the campus, and every point in that territory, the entire area, is closer to that team than any other. And we're kind of riffing on some very popular board games like Settlers of Catan or Risk, where you kind of expand your empires
Mm-hmm.
outward, and you create to use a somewhat technical geography term, a contiguous set of territories,
Gotcha.
connected empire. So the drafts always proceed in the same fashion. You're choosing teams. You pick one in the first round, pick an adjacent one in the second round. Third round has to be adjacent to that, and then you get boxed in.
Right.
Then the draft is over. One of the really cool things that we have in our software is, as soon as the draft is over, your league gets transported to a web page where you can replay your draft. Not replay, like do it over again, but
Play it back.
rewatch, play it back.
Oh, you can actually watch it play out in front of you. How it was
It has a
You kind of
slider. It has
record
an
it as you
animation
go.
button. You know, think of the trash talking possibilities, Bob.
Yeah,
You know,
yeah. Like you could
you
have
move the
taken Butler
slider
right
to the
there, but
third round, and
no,
it's like, here's where you went off.
the rails.
Your whole draft strategy went wrong. You thought you were going to be able to go from Ohio State to Michigan to, you know, Notre Dame, and this person over here, you know,
Mhm.
on the snake had 2 picks and got there
Right,
first, and then you were stymied. You couldn't go in
right.
that other, you know, great trash talking, you
Yeah,
know,
no, that's cool. That sounds
potential
fun.
for after the draft.
Right.
That's really, really a fun thing.
So then,
Um,
after you've done drafting for the NFL season, so you're going to pick your teams and everybody's going
okay.
to draft and have your sections. Then, how is the scoring work for you as the team owner? How does that all? How does that come into play?
Well, there are some
Okay.
features. There are some features in the upcoming NFL game that are new in terms of how the draft appears on your page and some of the
Mm,
tools that you have that
okay.
you're able to utilize throughout the game. So, Mike, these are some really exciting things.
Well, you're getting into the cartography and technology areas there, Don. But if you look behind me, you can see, well,
Hmm.
Northwestern's kind of a small sliver, and you know, especially when you've got March Madness and you have a lot of teams packed along the East Coast, for instance, or in
Sure.
Southern California. So one of the cool little features that we're going to introduce with the football game is to be able to sort of explode the territories away from each other, create a little buffer between them, so each one is isolated, has a margin around it. You can
Hmm.
see them really well. And
Yeah.
you know, when you're drafting, the software shows you which teams are adjacent. Sometimes you can't really tell. It could be almost just a little corner where they're touching.
Mm.
Um, so the software will highlight the available teams for you.
Okay. Nice.
But let's get to your question, Bob, about, you know, how's this going to work for football when it's not a single elimination tournament? And really, the fact that it's a season long tournament and teams that lose continue to play games gave us a whole array of new possibilities where you could lean
Okay.
into more of the board game aspects of Maptasy. So there are 4 key differences um, that start after the draft. Okay,
Yeah.
with how the game is played and scored after the draft. So during the regular season, when a football team loses and they're not eliminated, uh, we thought the funnest thing would be for your opponent. You know, if you're one of my teams beats one of your teams in week
Hmm.
one, I'm going to capture your team.
Oh, so like Risk.
I'm going
Ah.
to add it to my empire. It's going to get colored in my color and be part of my empire.
I like it.
Um, right. So that's really fun. Second key difference is that the first round draft pick, the team you pick in the first round, is even more important
Mhm.
because not only do you have to then pick a team in the second round that's adjacent to this team,
Right.
we're calling these teams your fortress team,
Okay.
right? And you can never lose that team. That's your one team that
That's your
cannot be,
first rounder only.
your first rounder only,
Okay.
can't be captured,
Okay.
right? So you have some sort of base that will remain.
Right.
And if it's your favorite team, you know, you're going to have it all season long,
Right.
right? Um, the other thing about the Fortress team is that you're going to get bonus points during the season when the more teams that you have connected to your capital or Fortress team. Okay, so you're
Mm.
really going to try to maintain that geographic empire.
Gotcha.
Okay, so you're going to get bonuses. What are these bonuses? You'll get bonus points, but the really fun thing is you'll get shields.
Mm.
All right. So you're going to have decisions,
Now,
in fantasy football.
Mike, pause there for 1 second because
Sure.
Bob understands the relevance and significance of shields.
Okay.
We've been talking
Mhm.
about what? Empires. We've been
Mm-hmm.
talking about board game strategy and territories. These
And
will
fortresses.
actually look these will actually look like medieval shields
Nice.
that will be branded with our trophy logo image.
I like it.
And you'll have an assortment of them that will be available to you at the beginning of each draft.
Okay.
Okay, and these shields can be deployed. Just think of like Star Wars or
Mm-hmm.
Star Trek. You put up
Yeah.
your protective shield. That's the practical effect of these shields, and Mike will explain how that will
Okay.
work. But the shields is
Well,
an interesting thing because we're also looking at the ability to offer personalization of the shields as an up,
Mm.
as an upcharge for the customer if you want to create your own crest or colors or
I
whatever.
like it.
That's something that we're exploring as well.
All
So, Mike,
right.
mhm.
Yeah, that's really cool. Yeah. No, go
So,
ahead.
so the shields are going to function a little bit like the armies in Risk. They're going to provide you some measure of protection, of giving you an advantage in a battle.
Okay.
Okay, the more little armies you have, the more advantage you have in Risk. Same thing here. So you're going to be able to earn shields in a variety of ways. You're going to start with some, and each week you're going to earn more.
Okay.
And you can choose in among any of the teams that you currently have in your empire, uh, how many shields, if any, to deploy to help a team win its game that week. So, for instance, if I have the Bears and you have the Steelers,
Okay.
uh, and I really want to keep the Bears and I really want to capture the Steelers, um, I could play a certain number of shields. You won't know how many I'm playing. You could
Oh.
also play some shields on the Steelers. We don't
Mm.
know what each other is going to do,
Okay.
right? But let's say the Steelers win by 2, and I've played 4 shields,
Mm.
and you haven't played any. That takes the Bears from 2 under to 2 over,
Ah. Okay.
and uh, the Bears win in the Maptasy matchup,
Okay.
and I get the Steelers, and you
Nice.
lose them,
Okay.
right? How that would work.
That's fun. Yeah, I
Um,
like that. Kind of
so
like
this,
playing defense, and it actually has an effect on the game.
yeah, yeah.
yeah.
Not just a team defense that you return a
Mhm.
touchdown. Oh, that's cool.
So
That's
then
cool.
the fourth difference between the March Mania single elimination tournament and the season long NFL or college game
Okay.
is uh, it's going to go from the first game of the season through the Super Bowl or the college football championship,
Oh, okay.
right?
All the way
So
through. Okay.
wins will get more valuable, through the playoffs, winning your conference, winning your division, you're going to get extra points, things like that. But you'll be able to play right through the end of the regular season.
Okay.
After that, a bunch of the teams are out of the playoffs. They stay in your empire, but they don't really do anything.
Right.
And but the teams that are in the playoffs keep going,
All
and you
right.
can keep playing shields on them. So that really gives someone who's sort of
Yeah.
fallen behind in the standings a chance to really catch up because the Super Bowl or the college championship is worth a lot of points.
Okay. Gotcha. And then what do they win at the end of the year? Is it a trophy? Is it money? Is it pride? What do they get?
This game is really at this point, uh, you know, a fun activity to do with your
Okay.
friends or your
Yeah.
family. So you can arrange your own trophies,
Right.
your own prize money. There's clearly a lot of potential here to
Hmm.
turn this into a gaming uh, type of thing, but it isn't at the moment. So it's
Gotcha.
just
Oh, that's fine.
for
Yeah.
fun.
Yeah, and,
No.
and we're not charging anyone to play, but if you form a league and you want to create that kind of competitive structure, you're
Right.
certainly free to do so.
And you said though
Mhm.
there were some upcharge things like maybe extra shields or some extra
Yeah,
bonus.
those are all things that we're looking at that will
Yeah. Oh, yeah.
enhance.
Okay. So not in place yet, but
Yeah.
things to do. No, that's great stuff. No, I think again, this is my 6th year of the Expo. I've seen a lot of things. I've seen a lot of cool games, a lot of cool apps, a lot of cool everything. You're right.
Hmm.
Nothing like this. Unique, special. College can play. If you're a college fan, you can play. If you're a pro fan, you can play. March Madness will be coming up next year. So practically play. Oh, and then you got the NFL draft. So you can practically play this thing almost year round, really. By the time the Super Bowl
Oh,
ends and March Madness
think
begins, what do
about
you got? 2 weeks? So
think
it's
about
a year
you got
round
the World
thing.
Cup. You got the World Cup. You've got the Olympics with
Oh, well,
every
heck yeah. Yeah.
country.
You got all kinds of new, even
You
better
have
ideas. So love
the
it.
what is it called? The Euro Cup,
Right. Yeah, that's true. They got all
um,
the soccer
the
matches and all that kind of. So you can make this
European soccer.
international and pick countries
Hmm.
and all
Exactly.
kinds of fun stuff. No, this is great stuff.
And the other thing too, you talk about picking countries and international nature of the game without really setting out to make this our intent. It actually is going to be an educational component to this
Sure.
because people now playing on a map are going to start learning geography again,
Mm-hmm.
Hmm.
recognizing countries and their location or states and their locations, and start remembering things that they have probably forgotten or maybe never learned.
Right.
And to us, that is going to be a thrilling part of
Yeah,
the
yeah,
game as
especially
well.
for as college professors, especially one of
Hmm.
geography, getting people to kind of get back into that realm because I'll be honest, I'm not very good at it either. So
To make learning fun,
yeah,
and
exactly. Play a little
don't
sports.
even know that you're learning while you're learning. That's always a
Love
great
it.
goal. And here's another really fun thing about it. I've played many fantasy football leagues.
Mm-hmm.
I don't think I've ever played one with fewer than 8 people. It's usually 12.
Yeah, right.
Okay. This is a game that works great with four,
Right.
six, eight, seven. It can be a lot of fun that way. And
Mm-hmm.
you're not playing, you don't even need an even number of players.
Yeah.
You're not
Right, because it
you're
doesn't
not
matter. It's
playing
not like
my
there's
team
not
against your team.
right.
One of my teams is playing one of your teams, but two of my teams are playing two of Don's teams as well.
Yeah.
So uh,
One
it
thing
can be
that one
really
thing,
fun for a family or a small group. Um, and with the NFL, you've got 32 teams. You're gonna have a shorter draft. For college football, we're going to include the Pac-12, which is kind of reconstituted,
Mm-hmm.
and we're going to have 80 some teams. That'll be a nice long draft. You could have
Yeah,
more players.
sure.
So it really varies, and the map can be different. I mean, the NFL map's going to be the same every year,
Right.
but the March
NCAA
Madness,
could change.
completely new map every year.
Yeah, right, cool. Don, you were saying something there a
But
second ago.
yeah, I was going to say because Mike was talking about these features in small groups. One of the things that really makes our technology so interesting and provides an opportunity for even an individual to play. You can actually play Maptasy by yourself against bots. We
Ah,
have it set up so that your opponents would be bots, and you can go through the draft and
I love it.
experience it just playing by yourself.
I love it. Well, gentlemen,
or any number of humans and any
yeah,
number of bots.
got it. Well, guys, thank you for your time. Love everything about this, folks. If you're out there, you're watching this, you know what you just saw. You know how cool this looks. Tell everybody how they get signed up, get started for this football season, and then I'll take it out from there.
Well, our website is www.maptasy.com. So it's the word map and the last half of the word fantasy.
Yep.
Maptasy, Maptasy. So maptasy.com.
Got it.
It's this new game isn't quite available yet for
Okay.
football, but you can do practice games against bots
Okay.
for men's or women's March Mania football. Football draft,
Hmm.
uh,
Cool.
and
Where
check
can
it
they
out.
find you guys on social media?
Well, we're all on LinkedIn. We're on Facebook. We are on Instagram. We have Maptasy pages. We're also on Reddit.
Perfect.
So we're building our social media platforms and following. And we think with this fall introduction of the college and pro football games, things will greatly expand.
Love it. I love it. Well, gentlemen, thank you for your time. Everybody, check out Maptasy Sports, maptasy.com. All the socials are out there. Check it all out. Get ready for the season. They'll be getting it ready soon. We'll be announcing it in our newsletter when they're ready to start taking registrations, probably early August, if I'm not mistaken, right, guys?
Mhm.
So for Don, for Mike, there with Maptasy, I'm, of course, with Big Fantasy Sports. I am. But I'm also at the Fantasy Football Expo. I'm going to click this button. It's going to tell you how to get tickets. Get them soon. It's only 6 weeks away. Everybody, take care. God bless. We'll see you soon.
Thanks for watching. Lock in your 2025 football tickets now at thefantasyfootballexpo.com. Hit subscribe and check out one of these excellent @FF Expo videos next.